Effective questioning and coaching. So this is something you will become skilled at, is asking open questions rather than closed questions. I think one of the most fearful things we feel as a coach is knowing the right questions to ask and when to ask them and how to ask them. Obviously with this method that you are given a list of killer powerful questions to ask at every session, because I know how it feels to be a new coach and to be kind of feel like you're stranded out at sea. But effective questioning, what does it mean? Every day we're asking questions, but we're asking questions with a specific agenda in mind or a direction in mind. And quite often we're asking yes or no questions, or we're being asked yes or no questions. The skill of asking an effective question is, it's normally the who, the what, the when, and the why. So it's finding out what the client means, as we've discussed before, but it really is the key to communication. So you ask questions to help the client identify their concerns and thoughts and belief systems. Things like, tell me more about that. If a client says, well, it's just impossible, isn't it? What do you come back with as a coach if you hear a limiting belief in a client? So this client has an assumption that it's just impossible, when really you are there to shed light and to challenge their thinking in a gentle way. You're helping them shift perspective. We'll talk about mindset later on in the course, but it's your job to help them move from a life that is limited to limitless. And that's a very limited judgment that the person's made on themselves and about what they're trying to achieve. So deep listening, reflecting back what the client has said. So you might say something like, really? Is it impossible? So you're challenging them gently, but you're asking them, is it really impossible? Or do you just think it is? And quite often they'll hear their own words back and say, well, no, it's not impossible. Of course I could do it, but... And then listen to the but, and there's the limiting belief and the mindset around it. So really what I want to help you with is understanding the difference between open and closed questions, because I want you to know how you can start to reframe a question that might be closed. So this really is a skill to this, but I've listed some closed questions for you versus open questions, and I've got you to do a little task on it as well. So for instance, if somebody says you're sad or you're crying, and if they're stating the obvious, then there is only one way to answer it. Well, yes, I'm crying. So another way to ask that is, I see that you're crying now. What's the reason for this? What's going on in you that's making you feel this way where you're crying? Ask open questions, start to reframe what it is that you're saying, so they don't just give you a yes or a no answer. Because if you get just yes or no answers, there is no real communication that's going on, and you're not asking curiosity questions. So moving away from questions that are closed, like, have you thought about taking a break or taking a holiday, to when was the last time you had a break and how did that make you feel? If you were to take a break now in this situation, would that be a helpful thing to do? And you're opening up, you're getting them to think about their current situation. So think about closed questions versus open questions, and I want you to become aware of the questions that you're asking now to family, to friends, to colleagues, and start to think before you speak. Start to ask these questions that are more open and engaging in a conversation, because number one, it will really help the type of build stronger bonds with people, but you're going to be able to start to practice the skill, and this really is a skill of becoming an effective coach.